Cats, cops, and C4. Specialist Barnabas, Cenk answers his communicator. There is a pause to the lesson. Dinner had gone very well with Amy deeply loving what Miss Duckett had made. It had been basically a lobster bisque using a seaquake. Ridiculously expensive, but apparently quite tasty. Cenk had said he'd finish up what was left over due to his larger appetite. It had bit him fairly hard as the meal had been all but licked out of the bowls. Not that he has a real issue missing the occasional meal. And worst come to worst, he can simply call in for someone on the Dauntless to warp something to him. We're moving soon. However, Target Large has been acting off. We're not certain if she suspects an attack or is preparing the next strike. Either way, on your guard. Copy that. Any other details? Cenk asked. Negative. Hope your shift is properly boring. Control says and he nods. Confirmed, Cenk says, and the call ends as he leans back into the room where Amy is slowly being taught how to naturally stand in a way that won't have her easily knocked around. Back foot a little wider. But it's not proper in polite society. It will draw attention to her in many ways. Gabriella doesn't so much protest as notes. Then she needs to learn a military movement, or a slightly more advanced one, Cenk says as he walks in and stands at attention. Kiesan flicks a finger at him and with a touch of axiom and a force wave slams into his chest. He steps backwards into a wide and strong stance. The step backward is as far as the blow takes him. Then a series of other force waves bombard him and he is unmoved. Then she stops and he moves back to standing at attention. A surprise renewing of the bombardment before he can speak has him step back into the solid stance once more. There's no way you could stand that easily if she was actually trying to knock you down. Of course not. This is just a basic reflex you need to get down. When you're hit with a real blow, a telling blow, you have to roll with it. This is to solidify yourself so you can deflect or dodge those blows. It's very rare that outright blocking something is the best move. So the ultimate defense is simply not to get hit? Amy asks in an impudent tone, and there are smirks by everyone but Miss Duckett. You think it's simple, do you? Kaylan asks with a smile. Yes, Amy asks, and Cenk outright laughs at her alongside Vera, as Linda sighs in understanding, but is clearly amused. All her memories of her training her telling her to get the hell behind cover and dive for safety going through her mind. Wrong answer? Wrong answer, Cenk says. Perhaps a demonstration. I can't take part in it, though. I am on duty as a guard right now. And if you're going to emphasize duty that much, then I'm going to have to step out. Oh, that leaves us. Want to show little Miss Rich Girl just how hard dodging can be? Vera asks Lena, who gives her an odd look before nodding. Very well. I'm sure taking a few pot shots with my stun gun will be entertaining. What? Why do I have to do the dodging? Vera demands. Those who are better at something should be the ones demonstrating it. Linda butters her up, and before she can fully think it through, she agrees. She taps away at the keys for her computer. Thinking, considering, wondering. Something is up, and she has no idea what. The humans are fooled. The next little blur of her plans should all go off at the same time. By the time one of the humans gets into killing range of Frost, the bounty she had posted into the Spire Depths Guild should be accepted, and several others should be looking at her. Following that, with a Mindslayer dart on her head servant, should finish the job as the girl finally loses trust in everything but the final weapon aimed at her head. She pauses and thinks as she looks around. Her wings are rippling, but there's no sign of things going wrong. None of her servants are acting up. None of the usual signs of things going wrong are happening. Sure, someone wants to find her, but the trail has been blurred by a borderline obscene amount of happy circumstances, with so many other forces trying to figure her out all at once that they've destroyed the trail entirely. The veil was shattered in its more delicate components, which meant the personal touch she had to put in was utterly undone. Her missions have been going off flawlessly, with only the minor hiccups of equipment that always happen. There had been less than usual even. Was what was setting her off? An unexpectedly good batch in the second hand, refurbished and rebuilt tools her hands used? It was the only really effective way to avoid all the nonsense of being traced. She bought as little as possible firsthand, but not everything can be effective as a second-hand tool. She taps on the desk as she considers. There had been that beacon. The Undaunted had tried to look into it, but it hadn't led anywhere. It wasn't a weakness. She had bought it through enough proxies that no court of law would be able to get anywhere. Hell, she wasn't even sure entirely who bought it, just that someone who she occasionally gave orders to had gotten someone else to get someone else to get someone else to get it. It's why the clones were so useful. She could honestly say that the current iteration of her tools were not the ones of her past, so not only does she not know the people who did it, but has no idea where they are. Because who knows where a person goes after death, if there's something to go to after death, if clones can even truly die so much as stop working. What are they in the end if not fleshy machines, spare parts for people? So no, she doesn't know any person who would do such things. You need to be a person first. An indicator in her desk starts flashing, and her left wing spikes up for a moment. Whether or not she's being paranoid is now pointless. She needs to go on a break and likely get a new ID after this. She's been Juliet Comet for too long. She feels like she's walking on blades. I'll need to get the random letter and number generators out again. It's been a while. She notes to herself before poking the button. Miss Comet, there's a message here for you. Her secretary says, and Juliet audibly sighs in frustration. No matter what you do, you're going to find yourself tripping hard over an idiot. Some people are just denser than Hypercrete and in the running for trying to out-dense black holes. And the message is, it seems to be a stripogram, the secretary says, and Juliet lets out a huff, followed by a rueful laugh. Of course. No doubt a big hurry the hell up from a handsome face. Is it from a reputable source? Not just some desperate punk that was dragged off the street? It's from the bachelor's burden, ma'am. You can call me Jangles. I'm fully accredited, and you can call my supervisor to confirm it. Miss Harlan, if you're curious. A deep rumbling voice answers that soothes every single little worry she has down her wings. They gone from slowly spiking up in paranoia to outright downy in her calm. Really? Well then. Let's see, she says, and she quickly switches to searching for just that. Bachelor's Burden is a legit business that sends handsome men in small amounts of clothing to deliver messages. Miss Harlan is registered as a supervisor, and Jangles, a Lopen man with pure white fur and glacier blue eyes, is indeed one of her boys. VT, is our Jangles a sheer white Lopen man with dreamy blue eyes? She asks, and there's a throaty laugh from her secretary. Yes. The girl sighs, and Juliet chuckles. At least the message sender has good taste. A big cuddly wolf boy that you can lose yourself in his eyes? Yes, please. Send him in, she says, and in moments the door opens and there he is. 3 meters of fluffy white fur pressed down by a big coat that makes the puffiness of the fur around his head stand out like a big adorable bauble. Fur so soft that just looking at her makes her feel soothed and comfortable. Jangles, being a professional, waits for the door behind him to close in the obvious and standard privacy filter to turn on full blast. Madam, he begins opening up his coat and showing that while he does have a broad chest, there's just so much fur under there as well, that no matter where she grabbed onto this man, it would be soft, silky, and smelling of a big healthy man. She can barely resist licking her lips. He slowly opens it further and further, revealing more and more fur until it gets to a pair of pants and comes open entirely. We're concerned that the job we've hired you for isn't yet finished. She huffs in annoyance at that, but the annoyance is quickly swept away as the coat is shucked off entirely to show that, yes, he's cut, he's fluffy, and those eyes, those amazing eyes. He's also very professional and careful so that the coat is artistically arranged around him to look more like a frame than just a mess. So we're sending you a final little warning. While some want to wait, those that don't aren't willing to wait any longer. Jangles says as he slowly unbuckles his belt and slides them down to reveal the thong he's wearing that takes up all her attention. Oh, she hears the words, but doesn't much care more than the fact that the thong is very, very full. Perhaps a little too full. She'll need Axiom to help if she wants to climb this fluffy tree. He steps out of the pants, just as artfully arranged as the coat, and he saunters over. A big fluffy tower of man with a deep voice and spellbinding eyes that then leans down so she can lose herself in them. Do you understand? Understand? Yes, all right, who sent you? I get that no one wants me to avoid a message, but really? A stripper? I don't know. My handler was sent a message in payment from an unopened package thanks to a courier. It's common enough, he says, and she's too distracted by the closeness, but the want to reach out and touch him by. She starts well and truly evaluating the price of grabbing onto him and having her way with the big white wolf. After all, if the punishment for the crime isn't always imprisonment or death, then it's technically legal, just expensive. Potentially, with a man. This tasty, she could easily get most judges on the plate to agree that asking her to not jump him could count as cruel and unusual. So do keep yourself busy, ma'am, Jangle says, slowly leaning back with one hand on her desk as he pulls out a small card with the whole message printed on it that smells like he does. She does not notice the tiny object imprinted into the underside of her desk lip. How could she? Between the Lopen, the card, the scent, the show, and the sound of his voice rumbling through her, it's a miracle she could recall her own name. She lets out a slight sound of distress as he saunters backwards, 3 perfectly measured steps before doing a backwards bend to pull up his pants that lets her see everything but what she really, really wants to see. The sound of longing echoes out from her throat as he pulls the pants up and slowly makes a show of covering himself again. We hope you found this message suitable. For all your irresistible messages, look to the bachelor's burden. We're happy to let a lady know anything. Do you do more than run messages? She asked pointedly. Now, a gentleman never kisses and tells. He counters softly as he crouches down and slowly rises back up, looking so vulnerable, so open, and so ready to be pounced on as he slowly slides the coat over his arms and then ever so slowly zips back up. Another satisfied customer. Now that's just not fair, she whines as he saunters away, his curly tail bobbing behind him, and she's almost climbed onto her desk with the want to jump over and grab it. The door closes and she slinks back down into her desk and lets out a breath of hot and bothered air. I need to get laid so badly. That shouldn't have hit me that hard. But damn if they didn't get what I like, she mutters to herself. Right, finish the job. Well, I've got a bounty on her, the 2 mind slayers, one for the humans, the other for the maid, and other backups. This is fine. It's inevitable. Specialist Barnabas reporting. Cenk answers his communicator. The bug's already working for us. Be on the lookout for a flurry of potential attackers, and be ready to protect Miss Duckett as well. Large is planning on using a mind slayer on her to strip away all the girl's protections. Fuck! Cenk grits out, and he immediately cases the area. He has a suspicion, and he grabs a chunk of gravel out of one of the flower beds next to him. Linda and Vera are partway through a demonstration of how hard dodging actually can be when he wings out a rock at something he can't really see. There's the sound of flesh meeting stone, and something trips into flowers. A cloakin. Kailan is on the woman in moments as Cenk gets close to Amy to provide cover. Everyone down, hostiles on the premises.